Most wins, most poles, most laps led, and most consecutive wins all in a single season. Youngest pole winner, youngest pole win and fastest lap in a single race, youngest world champion, and shortest time to get a penalty in F1. All these records are nice, but who really is Sebastian Vettel?
I love being outside and love nature and its wonders.
Okay, cool. What else?
I'm stubborn and impatient.
Well, yeah, you race cars, that's kind of assumed. Anything else?
I like chocolate and the smell of fresh bread. My favorite color is blue.
These things are nice, but not really what I mean. When looking at all the records and successes over his career, where did it all begin? Maybe asking who is Sebastian Vettel is the wrong question, but maybe what built Sebastian Vettel? Well, obviously, the first place to start is Sebastian Vettel was born on the 3rd of July, 1987 in Heppenheim, Germany. Heppenheim, or as it is officially known, Heppenheim an der Burgstrasse, is an old German town which sits in the shadow of the Starkenburg Castle. It is a relatively small town with a population of around 25,000. Seb grew up here with his parents, two older sisters, Stephanie and Melanie, and later, a younger brother, Fabian. If you've watched Formula One long enough, you've probably seen his father Norbert at the track. As a matter of fact, if you watched the 2022 Belgium Grand Prix Free Practice 3, you might have seen Norbert Vettel hanging around the garage. Seb's mother is Heike Vettel, and she has also been a large support in Sebastian's life. However, she's a bit more rare to spot at the track as she prefers to keep her life a bit more private. It is no secret that Sebastian is a man who cares greatly about his wife and children, and that, no doubt, is a result of the kinship he felt with his family growing up. His parents were able to recognize his talents and help to encourage him to always do his best, no matter the situation. The situation to help their son get into professional racing was not always easy. Norbert was a self-employed carpenter who ran a small business dealing in building contracting and often roof repairs. Sebastian's mother, as far as I can find, was a stay-at-home mom who dedicated her time to taking care of her 3, and later 4, children, and a large part of the responsibilities around the house. While they were not extremely wealthy, they did have driving in their veins, at least somewhat. Sebastian's grandfather had actually been a bus driver for near 50 years, and his father was enthusiastic about racing and participated in hill climbing events. Norbert and Heike met each other in school when they were teenagers and grew together and grew as a family. As Norbert grew his carpentry business, he also grew his interest in racing and started in the early 1980s. Almost all of his racing experience came in the form of time trialing. He did this as a hobby for 13 years, until 1994, when all the family's excess money was invested into their son's career. After his son reached stardom, he would do a few races in the Sirocco Support Series for DTM, being some of his first few racing experiences competing against other people on track. He noted how much he respected the skill of his son and his fellow competitors. Norbert's hobby racing is initially what got his children interested in racing. His family would come to his events and would enjoy watching him compete. In the early 90s, when Sebastian was around age 3, the family bought a Bambino kart for his children to share and satisfy their fascination with racing and wanting to do something cool like their father. However, unfortunately for his older sisters, young Sebastian liked to hog the kart. He would spend hours driving laps around the family's small home all day long until he was exhausted. However, karting competition in full didn't start until a few years later. Seeing their son's talent and enthusiasm, they began taking him to small karting events nearby. In an interview, Norbert recalls how there could be as many as 120 kids in karts, and only 34 would make it to the race. Seb often said he didn't stand a chance against the bigger and older opponents, but his father's advice was simply brake later. After ending his hobby racing, the family prepared Vettel with a 60cc kart, and going into the year 1995, were ready to try and compete consistently. Their journey began with only 7,000 Deutsche Mark, which is only about 3,500 euros today. His father remarks how, with the cost of things today, their journey would not be possible. Starting out, the father and son had no big dream or goal of F1. They say at age 8, the best goals were to set small, achievable goals. Their most ambitious goal at that time was to have Sebastian pass the Abitur when it became time. Norbert worked on the karts in their home, learning more tricks as he went, and young Seb showed his talent on track. While on track, his ability was noticed by Gerhard Noack, the same man who had noticed the talent of Michael Schumacher years earlier. Gerhard relayed his story of the talented young boy to his friend Peter Kaiser. Kaiser, who was managing the KSN karting team, took Vettel onto his team, getting him into the seat of a Tony kart. Even at a young age, people could see the talent in Seb. His parents, the same man who found Schumacher, the KSN team owner, and even their friend Michael Schumacher. The whole Tony Kart team liked Vettel. Around age 10, while at an event in Italy, Seb asked to go into the Tony Kart team tent to observe and learn. They welcomed him in and accompanied champion karter Davide Fore and his mechanics in tinkering on the kart. All the team members enjoyed having him around and commented on how focused and polite he acted. It's tough to know if his competitors on track thought so kindly of him or not, because at this same time Vettel won 3 different karting championships in the Bambini B class. The next year he would win another 2 championships in the Bambini A class for the KSN team. Even with the team's support, every step up the ladder meant more money required from his family. His father recalled installing a second fuel tank in their van to travel from Germany to Italy without having to stop in Switzerland where fuel costs were higher. It was around this time when Vettel made his first contact with the Red Bull Juniors program. Sebastian wrote a letter to some of the higher-ups at Red Bull Motorsports team asking for sponsorship support. They started by sending him a Red Bull branded crash helmet. This was a pretty big letter for a boy just over the age of 10 to write, but this was completely in line with his personality. In recent interviews, Seb likes to downplay his ability as a student, saying he was pretty poor. However, stories from his family and the staff of his former school at the Starkenberg Gymnasium tell a different tale. They speak of a boy who was driven in self-discipline of study, much in the same way he was in learning his craft of racing. The goal for racing was to simply take the next step and continue competing. The goal in school was to study sufficiently in order to pass the Abitur exam post-grade school in order to qualify for German university. Vettel's second plan was to become a mechanical engineer. Even in the later years, as his racing career became more prevalent, he worked out deals with his school and tutors to continue to study while traveling for racing. While a lot of people saw many talents in the boy and encouraged him, he himself was a major driving force behind his actions for excellence and improvement. Over the next few years, Seb's connections with the Red Bull Junior program would continue to grow. He would also stay associated with the KSN kart team as he would move up categories to Cadet, 100 Junior, and ICA Junior. He also tried to find sponsorship deals any way he could, but no one showed interest. The family didn't want to give up, so in order to save money on overnight housing, they would sometimes sleep in the van or car, with Seb sleeping in the trunk. His whole family donated their time in supporting Sebastian's career. He knew this, and therefore never complained about interesting sleeping locations. The championship wins would return as he focused more solely on the ICA Junior class in 2001. Third in the South Garda Winter Cup, winner of the Monaco Kart Cup, first in the German Junior Kart Championship, and overall winner of the European Championship in his respective classes. This year he seemed to eclipse his competition again. The next year he would hop into the ICA category and would finish 6th in the European Championship. More importantly for his career, Seb participated in a driver performance selection sponsored by BMW. Vettel would be chosen to receive the opportunity to drive in the 2003 Formula BMW Series if he could come up with the money. His family borrowed, begged, and scraped to get up the €150,000 fee. His first year in open-wheeled racing would go pretty well. 5 poles, 5 wins, and 12 podiums in 19 races, on his way to finishing second in the championship his rookie year behind Maximilian Gotz. This performance not only got him more attention in Europe, but also in the Americas, where kart team owner Derek Walker gave Vettel a private test driving a 2003 Renard. However, Vettel elected to stay in Europe, participating in the 2004 Formula BMW ADAC series, and this was probably a smart choice, as Vettel would get 13 fastest laps, 14 poles, 20 podiums, and 18 wins in 20 races. He won the championship by over 120 points, above second place Attila Ebru. Going into 2005 at age 17, Sebastian was promoted to Formula 3. In his rookie year, he would finish 3rd in the Macau GP and get a total of 5 podium finishes, finishing 5th in the Euro F3 series as the leading rookie. His performance that year, as well as his domination in Formula BMW the previous year, earned him the opportunity to test the Williams BMW FW27 at Jerez at age 18. Mark Webber drove and set some benchmark times in the morning, and Seb drove in the afternoon. Upon his first drive in the car, Seb remembers thinking, "That's for real men, not for me." But as he got used to it, he wanted to do more. He would only do 25 laps and would finish 3 seconds off of Webber's time. But he would also go on to get another test day for BMW Sauber later that year. In 2006, Vettel was promoted to be the official test driver for the BMW Sauber team. In addition, he went for a second year in Formula 3. Just days after graduating from grade school, he would get his first F3 win. It would be his first of 4 wins and 9 podiums across 20 races, leading to him finishing second, 11 points in the championship behind teammate Paul di Resta. He also did 3 races for the Carlin team in Formula Renault 3.5 that year, getting a second place and a victory. In his third race at Spa, he suffered a near career-ending crash at Raidillon. Running in second place on a damp track, he lost control at over 270 kph and spun into the wall. His right index finger was nearly severed completely off by flying debris, and there were discussions over to amputate it before they decided to reattach it. He was predicted to miss several weeks of racing, but instead he raced the very next weekend at the Masters of Formula 3, where he would finish 6th. Just less than a month after the accident, Seb was named BMW Sauber's 3rd driver at that year's Turkish Grand Prix. He would become, at the time, the youngest driver to participate in a GP weekend. He would also set the record for the quickest fine in F1 history by speeding in the pit lane 9 seconds after the session had started. By the end of the second practice session, he would top the timing charts. He would again get an opportunity to test the car, this time at Monza, where he would be the fastest in both Friday sessions. The plan in 2007, originally, was to return to Formula Renault with Carlin while remaining Sauber's test driver. In 7 races, he would get 1 victory and 4 podiums in the Carlin and be leading the point standings. He would only complete 7 of that year's 17 rounds and would still finish 5th in the championship by year's end. His Formula Renault campaign would be cut short as he was needed to fill in at BMW Sauber after Robert Kubica's big crash at Canada. Vettel's Grand Prix debut would come in the following race at Indianapolis. He would qualify 7th and finish 8th, becoming the then youngest driver to score points. Kubica would return for the next round and Vettel would return to test driver. Later that year, in July, Seb was offered a contract from Red Bull to replace driver Scott Speed at Toro Rosso. He would be released by BMW and join Toro Rosso with a contract to drive for the team for the rest of the year, starting from Hungary, and for the next year of 2008. There would be some good performances throughout the rest of the year that would end prematurely, but he would get a career best finish for the team in a 4th place at China, a week after missing a podium in Japan. The following year would see the start of his full-time career in Formula 1, of course having impressive results like the legendary win at Monza, that would foreshadow the greatness to come later.
He's the youngest ever, and that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in Grand Prix racing.
When first starting out, the Vettel family had 2 ambitions for their son. 1, complete the German Abitur University exam, which he would do, and 2, just simply continue in racing, which he would do and more. Growing up, the young boy said his heroes were the 3 Michaels. Michael Jordan, but playing basketball wasn't a logical option for him. Michael Jackson, but Sebastian was disappointed when he decided he didn't have a voice for singing. And the final Michael, however, was Schumacher. Now, whether it was because they had a similar background or because the relationship Michael and Sebastian had had since he was young, people often spoke about how Seb was going to be the next Michael, or replace Michael when he retired from F1. Sebastian, however, said he never wanted to become Michael or replace Michael because that was impossible. He wanted to be himself, but at least be a successful racer like Michael. After his time at Red Bull, where Sebastian would become the youngest world champion, as well as set a slew of other records, he would follow in Michael's footsteps and try to win a championship at Ferrari. That ultimately didn't work out, and as of this year, he has announced his retirement from driving in Formula 1. He leaves the sport with 53 victories, over 120 podiums, 57 poles, and 4 consecutive championships. For many fans, him leaving is a sad but inevitable event. As when growing up, Formula 1 is not his only option. He has a family to spend time with and other hobbies he is interested in completing. He will, however, always remain in the record books of Formula 1 and the hearts of many fans for his actions on and off track. Vielen Dank, Sebastian. Hello there again, and thanks for watching. Now, my next subject is going to be staying in Formula 1, or at least he hopes he does, as currently he does not have a confirmed seat on the grid for next year. He comes from a country that has a past world champion, and including him, there are 2 of his countrymen on the grid this year. But how many will be on the grid next year? Maybe 1? But anyways, remember, if you like this video, then give it a like and look around my channel for any others that may interest you. And if you want to see to whom my next video is going to be about, be sure to subscribe and come back when it is released. But until then, I'll see you next time on Driver Profiles.